It's Sherrod Brown up against Liz Cheney in this hypothetical 2024 presidential matchup. Today on Political Access, we're going to go through each state and find a winner. This was suggested to me in the comments. I was able to get around to doing it. So let's get started. Safe states are over a 10-point margin, likely 5 to 10 points, lean under 5 points, and tilt 1 point or less. So Sherrod Brown is the U.S. Senator from Ohio. He's been in there for 3 terms. He's running for re-election to a 4th. He's regarded as more appealing to the economic populist working class coming from the left. He's not known for his stance on social issues, so depending on how much he does emphasize his positions, that would end up hurting him a little bit if he goes too far to the left on that front. Now Liz Cheney, on the other hand, she is pure Republican establishment. She led the charge against Donald Trump, so she got a ton of the Republican base mad at her. In the process, she managed to court some Democrats that were also very hard against Trump. Now, I would suspect the turnout for Liz Cheney would drop off. However, as much as a lot of Republicans say they would never vote for her, if somehow she was running against Sherrod Brown, a lot of them would end up voting for Cheney as a way to vote against Sherrod Brown. So it would be much more anti-Brown than pro-Cheney. And to the former Republicans that did leave the party due to Donald Trump and said they could vote for a normal Republican, and to the Democrats that said they could vote for a sane Republican, I think when it comes down to it, very few of them would actually come back and support Liz Cheney. Most of them have just gone over to the Democrats, and they really only want to support Cheney as being part of the establishment and as a way to attack Donald Trump. They would never actually want to support most of her policies. So Sherrod Brown is going to have an easier time in this matchup. So having said all that, let's get started in Alaska. This state trending a little bit toward the left slowly. It typically would not be competitive at all. In this particular matchup, I think it actually would be competitive, as a lot of these Republican voters, they stay home or they actually cross over and vote for Sherrod Brown. I have this as a lean for Liz Cheney. We're getting down to low single digits with Cheney on the ballot. Hawaii, very safe for Sherrod Brown. Now let's go west coast to east, and let's start Washington, Oregon, and California. Those will all be very safe, way over 10 points for Sherrod Brown. How about Nevada? This would normally be a competitive state, but not this time. This would be likely for Sherrod Brown. Cheney is just not going to get much support here from the Republicans. Idaho and Utah, those will be safe for Liz Cheney, especially in a state like Utah. That is a state that more prefers an establishment classic type of Republican than the new populist type of Trump Republican. In Arizona, similar story. Back in the day, Cheney would have had success here. This time, it's going to be likely for Sherrod Brown. Montana, that I have is under 10 points, likely for Liz Cheney. If Sherrod Brown goes hard on economics, does not go hard on social issues, he would make it competitive in Montana. The Republican voters there, again, they're not going to come out for Liz Cheney. Next in Wyoming, this is where Liz Cheney served in the U.S. House from. I think they don't like her here at all. Some Democrats would cross over because it is much more of a moderate state. And in the end, she would still win it by over 10 points, even with the Republicans staying home. Colorado, safe for Brown. New Mexico, also safe for Brown. North and South Dakota, the margins would be reduced, but Liz Cheney would still win them by over 10 points. How about in Nebraska? Well, we could break it down by congressional district. The second district, that is the Omaha district. That is typically much bluer and trending away from the Republicans. Some of them would actually vote for someone like Liz Cheney, but I think far too many of them are just Democrats at this point. And I have Sherrod Brown winning that district by over 10 points, low double digits for Brown. The first district, which is outside and around Omaha and the suburbs, that I have as a lean for Liz Cheney, mostly due to the lack of turnout for Cheney. The third district, that would still be over 10 points, no problem for Liz Cheney. At large, I have Nebraska as likely just under 10 points for Liz Cheney. Kansas would be under 10 points, not by a lot, but it would be under 10, likely for Cheney. Oklahoma, still safe for Cheney. Texas, this was a tough call for me, considering all the other factors I previously mentioned, with the turnout in the various parts of the state, the suburbs. The independents, I think, would swing toward Brown. 20 years ago, this would be an easy safe for Cheney. At this point, I have it all the way down to a tilt for Cheney. I think it'd be very close. I still have her winning it, but as I've said many times, there's a turnout problem for Liz Cheney, and Brown gets it within 1 point. Up to Minnesota, safe for Brown. Iowa, I have that as lean for Cheney. That would be low single digits. I don't see Brown necessarily flipping it, but he would actually make it pretty close. Let's move on to Missouri, and this I have as just under 10 points likely for Cheney. Arkansas, Louisiana, safe for Cheney. Up to Wisconsin, this I have as likely for Brown. Very similar reasons as I've previously mentioned. Illinois, easy safe over 10 points for Brown. Michigan, that will be low double digits, safe for Brown. Indiana, that will be high single digits, likely for Cheney. Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama, those are all deep red states, and they would still stay over 10 points for Cheney. How about Florida? That I have as flipping back toward the Democrats. Republicans are going to stay home. Brown would win it by a lean margin, probably 2 to 3 points. Georgia, that will be over 5 points, likely for Brown. South Carolina, that gets under 10 points in this matchup, likely for Cheney. North Carolina, that will be lean for Brown. And let's jump up to Ohio. This would be Sherrod Brown's home state. And in this matchup, I do have it as a lean for Sherrod Brown. And there's a recurring theme here with Liz Cheney and her turnout problem. Let's go next door to West Virginia. This is one of the reddest states in the country. I still think she would win it by over 10. Safe for Cheney. Let's go to Maine. At large, safe for Cheney. The 1st district, very safe for Cheney. The 2nd district, that is much more friendly toward the Republicans at this point. However, Liz Cheney is the wrong kind of Republican, and I have Sherrod Brown winning it by a likely margin. Let's go on to New Hampshire. Some Republicans would come back and vote for Liz Cheney, the same kind that would support George W. Bush, but they would be highly outnumbered by the pro-Sherrod Brown voters, and they would vastly outweigh the turnout reduction for Liz Cheney, and Sherrod Brown would win New Hampshire by a safe margin. Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., those will all be very safe Sherrod Brown. Now, there is a certain type of fiscal Republican in some of those wealthier, highly educated coastal states, sort of like the Charlie Baker types. Some of them would want to vote for Liz Cheney. They do like that pro-tax cut message, which I think Cheney would be big on. But again, that would be a small percentage. Sherrod Brown wins all those very comfortably. Let's move on to Pennsylvania. This will be over 10 points again, as those Republican voters stay home, so it will be low double digits safe for Brown. And finally, the last state is Virginia. A lot of those voters in Northern Virginia, they're pretty much Democrats at this point, even around in the suburbs. And the red Trump counties in the rural parts of the state, they're not going to bring themselves to vote for Cheney. And Virginia goes for Sherrod Brown by a safe margin. And that is my map, and that would result in 171 electoral votes for Liz Cheney, 367 for Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown has no problem winning this matchup. It's not really a surprise. Liz Cheney has burned way too many bridges with the base. As much as some Democrats and the liberal establishment in the media like to prop her up, again, when it comes down to it, they're not actually going to vote for her. So again, as long as Sherrod Brown doesn't go hard left on social and cultural issues, I think he would win this very easily. Even if he does go hard left on those issues, some of these margins I think would just go back toward Cheney by another 2 or 3 points. Liz Cheney's time has passed. There's really no party for her anymore at this point. She's really only going to be a spoiler candidate, as there's a very narrow slice of the electorate that she speaks to. I think most voters won't even care what her platform is, what issues she runs on, or even what issues Sherrod Brown runs on. Most people probably already have their minds made up, and this ends up being a very lopsided map. It's very hypothetical, and it's never going to happen, but this is just what I think. Do you mostly agree with my map? Or would you change 5, 10, or 15 of these states? Let me know down below. And on your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.